Meeting to order, please rise for silent reflection and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now roll call, Jim.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Here.
Mrs. King?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien? Mr. Schuler?
Here.
Mr. Tinkin? Here. Mr. Borbach?
Here.
Mayor Mechanico?
Here. Please read the Open Public Meetings Act, Jim.
Pursuant to the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which is filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted on the Borough website and in the municipal building, and it will be published as a legal notice in the Co-Star newspaper and mailed to those requesting notice and providing payment in accordance with borough policy.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda and a second.
Motion? I'll second.
Any questions on the agenda? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Thank you. No presentations, we'll move right into the scheduled public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on agenda item only, just step forward, give your name and address.
This is for the voice of the people, right?
Yes.
John Tantrum, 564 Manatee Avenue. I don't know if I should really be speaking now or later, because it's supposed to be about an agenda item, but there seems to be something missing from the agenda, and that is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. There don't seem to be any approvals of minutes from the last meeting. And according to the New Jersey Open Public Records Act, each public body shall keep reasonably comprehensive minutes of all its meetings, showing the time and place, the members present, the subjects considered, the actions taken, and the vote of each member, and any other information required to be shown in the minutes by law. So I recall getting up in November and asking about the minutes. There don't seem to be minutes for your meetings.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may address that.
Go ahead.
I have been delinquent in providing current meeting minutes. We're in the process of updating that, and I expect that for our next meeting, those will be brought right up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Any agenda item only? Seeing no hands, I need a motion to close the public section.
I will make that motion.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion item on the delinquent taxes, I believe, Mr. Vorbeck, this was something you were
Well, I was
concerned
concerned with this. This thing under consideration says the borough collector shall collect interest on taxes at the maximum legally allowable rate of 8% for under $1,500 and 18% for over $1,500 and over, including the provision for an additional 6% year-end penalty. I just think that the 18% sounds like a credit card. I just think the rate's too high, but that's my opinion.
And
Can
Mayor,
we come up with some figures, Jay?
at the reorganization meeting, this matter was tabled, and there was a question as to what, if any, would be necessary to make the change for our utility and tax programs. I checked, they can be adjusted to whatever rate the council deems reasonable. These are the maximum that's allowed under law, and a informal survey of area communities indicates that almost all, at least I should say, all that we checked with provide the same maximum.
Yeah, I might be mistaken, but I just think, if somebody's, goes down to Florida or whatever for the winter or whatever, and they miss a tax payment, you're charging them 18%, I just think it's a bit steep to do that to our taxpayers. So that's me.
I think, did Mr. Vorbeck, did you put forth the idea of cutting that in half, 4% and
Yes, I did.
and 9%?
That's what I suggested.
4 and 9.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody
I
else
mean, you
supports it.
still have a sluggish economy. Unemployment's still rather high. If somebody loses their job and falls behind for a payment, I mean, we're going to penalize them 18%.
How much are we talking about now?
interest on uncollected taxes?
Last year, we anticipated about $50,000 in interest on taxes. So if that were to drop in half, assuming that the same level of tax collection occurred, you'd be looking at a $25,000 loss of revenue that would have to be spread out over those that do pay on time.
Right, oh, that's true, that's true.
But one of the concerns would be by dropping the interest rate, we don't know what impact that would have in terms of the pattern of taxpayers paying on time.
Maybe they might be,
I don't
would
know.
they be more inclined to pay when it's a higher interest rate or more inclined to pay when it's a lower?
I think they'd be more inclined, but if they're unable or whatever,
Right.
Is there a way, because you probably already budgeted with this in mind for this current year?
Well, we haven't yet budgeted for 2014.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is there a way to make this effective, whatever changes we make tonight, if we make any, effective with the 2014 budget? Because we've already budgeted with this in mind for the 2013 budget.
Or another alternative is to maybe, have 3 steps or a longer grace period. It's 10 day, the provision for 10-day grace period.
And I believe that's also the maximum grace period that's allowed.
Oh, it's the max that's allowed.
I don't want to misspeak. The percentages and those tiers are the standard that's within the statute. I believe also that the 10-day is the maximum grace, but I can't speak specific to that with that one for sure.
Can we possibly have John Barrett give us a recommendation on it?
I spoke to him. He indicated that he would not recommend any change from what has been the practice, but
I mean, I don't know how strongly anybody else feels.
I'm not sure how everyone feels.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Jim, you have any feeling about lowering the rates?
No.
Sarah?
Well, certainly, you always want to do something that you think is going to be of a benefit to the taxpayer, but I personally feel that the PM consultants, John Barrett, and the auditor should be in on this before we as a council make any kind of a decision, because this could have a huge impact.
I agree with you.
And I would certainly think that that would be of utmost importance to do before we make any kind of decision.
So I think we should get an opinion of the auditor and Mr.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because,
Councilman O'Brien.
that makes sense, yeah.
I would like to revisit it. I do think the rates are excessive, and, if people or families find themselves in some short-term trouble, I don't think they should be penalized 18% for that issue. So hopefully we can revisit it in the future.
No, we appreciate it. Hey, my first year on the council, I was shocked by those as well. And I don't want to say this, but I pay them once in a while. Okay, anything else?
No, we'll just wait on the advice of the auditor.
Thank you. At this time of the meeting, we have the council report. We'll start with Mr. Timpkins. Anything about recreation?
None at this time.
Okay. Warbeck, you're on grants now? Ted?
Well, there was a letter to the editor from a resident of Spring Lake thanking our council for improvements at Ocean Road Park with regards to the windshield and the landscaping was very favorable, and thanked the council.
Yeah, I want to thank Jim Schuler for navigating that one.
Thank you, Ted. Sarah?
I have nothing to report.
Jim?
Yeah, I don't have any report. I'd like to make a comment, though, on the Sandy cleanup. The cost estimate we got on the Sandy cleanup from the contractors was in the neighborhood of $200,000. Art Herner, through the Public Works Department, did it, cleaned it up, and it cost us $100,000. It was a savings of $100,000 to the town through doing it ourselves.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
In the neighborhood of 100,000, give or take 1,000.
Thank you. We got reports, notices, and correspondence. We got the municipal court report, planning board hearing notice, wetlands permit application.
Louder.
Wetlands permit application, and the notice of default. Do we have anything to report on that, Chip?
No, Mayor, just, these are the notices and reports that we received.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we comment on the set of plans that we got?
Yes, you
Just,
can.
I know planning board meeting's coming up in terms of the drawings that we got. It looks like the way that this building is positioned, these two buildings are positioned, it possibly looks like the side of the building is going to be facing Route 71.
Let me see.
Am I reading that incorrectly?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, just the plans that are being referred to were distributed to the council for their information. This is an active application that is before the planning board, so I'm not sure that
We should be discussing it.
the public.
Can I
wants to
make a comment? I just want, all I want to say
Okay.
is if possible, if it's possible to still revise some of these, maybe that they can make the side of the building look like it's the front facing Route 71. That's
Be
all.
more attractive.
That's all I'm saying. Just continue this. See the nice wraparound they have in the front, Mayor, where it says shoes? Perhaps just continue that, maybe halfway down the side of the building. So this, you're not looking at the side flat front of a building going down Route 71. But if that's up to the planning board. I'm just, as a resident, I think it would look nicer.
I'll bring that to the planning board. I do have to agree that, you know, you want a certain ambiance in your town, you want to see the streetscape and to see the side of a building versus, I mean, it's a very nice plan, but everything that would be nice is gonna be restricted from the view of the street. And
Yeah, I see the architect, Chris Rice. I know Chris, he does great work. He could probably put something together quite quickly.
Okay.
It's my 3 cents, Mayor. I know you didn't ask, but
We appreciate your 3 cents. Thank you. We have an ordinance introduction, ordinance number 2014-1.
And Mayor, this is a capital ordinance of the Borough of Spring Lake Heights in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating $175,000 from the Water Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund for various capital improvements. You may recall that this proposed ordinance was discussed last year, although due to some scheduling conflicts and the calendar, we were unable to introduce this in order to have it adopted by year end. By way of background, I provided to the council information on the backside that reflects we currently have an excess of $320,000 in the Water Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund. This ordinance identifies one specific project and 4 areas that I'm suggesting we provide funding in the event such funding is needed for emergency repairs. Specifically, this ordinance is prompted by the anticipated cost of $130,000 to close, cap, and seal well number 4. Well number 4 is an inactive water supply well located at the corner of Allaire Road and Route 71. It has been inactive for a period of several, if not many years. In the past year and a half, we have been working on a plan primarily through the efforts of Joe May, the borough's engineer, to reduce the proposed cost of sealing this. The initial estimates that we had were in excess of $250,000, and we were able to, through Joe's efforts, spend small amounts of money to do some research and televising of the line. This project will go out to bid given the dollars involved, but this would involve closing, sealing the well, and demolishing the existing well building that's located somewhat out of view at that site.
Replacing it too.
Well, the structure would be replaced with a small shed-like structure, simply large enough to accommodate the electric service that's needed to provide power and light to Freedom Park there on the corner. The balance of the funding, again, provides relatively small amounts Since the funding is available in our capital improvement fund, it is my recommendation that by allocating these 4 areas, improvements to the water treatment plant, installation replacement of water mains, installation replacement of sanitary sewer mains and manholes, and equipment replacement and improvements to our wastewater pump stations. Essentially, this would provide funding in the event of emergent nature, because we do not generally budget for these kind of capital improvements on the utility side on an annual basis. This would provide standby funding in the event it's needed.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
can I ask Jay a question?
Yes.
Jay, can you let us know why we need to do this now? I know the well's been, we've been talking about doing it over the course of the years. What if we don't do it? I mean, $130,000 is a lot of money. What if we don't do it?
Well, we are under DEP, through their Bureau of Water Safety, requires that inactive wells be sealed. And we have been working with DEP, as I said, for about a year and a half. Once their initial order of closure came, which was, I believe, back in 2009, we have stretched the limit as to how far we can go. And again, we have spent the last year investigating alternative methods for sealing it. And I'm not familiar with the technical details. Joe May will be providing that to us. Once the funding's in place, we go out to bid and we have the bid proposals.
Good, so once we cap this, it'll put the DEP behind us.
That's correct.
Good,
And
okay.
essentially, the requirement is because these wells, or this well in particular, penetrates into the aquifer. The concern is that this needs to be sealed to prevent any ground level contamination from leaking into the aquifer.
Good, okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
I'd like to also point out to you that there is a hole in the side of the well that, you know, we're not using, it's just sitting there.
Oh, yeah, no, we've,
It's time.
it's time, yeah. Good, thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, yeah. I need a motion to introduce ordinance number 2014-1.
Make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Thank you. We need a date to advertise.
We'll be advertising this for public hearing at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Next item on the agenda is the resolutions. We have a few of them. Resolution R 2014-28. This is authorizing the share service with the SCAT system. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions?
Jay, will this shared service result in a decrease of services to the residents of Spring Lake Heights?
No, this is a long-standing arrangement with the county, and this is simply the renewal for the current year.
Okay,
Anything else? A roll call, Jack.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Next resolution, R 2014-29, approving the 2014 Shore Municipal Alliance Grant. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2014-30, authorizing refund of overpayment or canceled taxes. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Resolution R 2014-31, designating 2014 holidays. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions on the holidays? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Thank you. I need a motion to move the bills to the Finance Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, Jay.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbach?
Yes.
Resolution R 2014-32, approving the payment on claims for January 9th, 2014. Motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the bills? Roll call, Chair.
Mrs. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbaugh?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite the public to step forward, speak on any agenda, any item you like. And step forward, give your name and address.
Karen Beto, Beverly Avenue. Happy New Year, everybody. Mayor, I just have some questions regarding this proposed new sidewalk plan.
Side.
Okay. I'm just, first of all, wondering if there's any kind of discussion that's going to happen first. Is there like sort of a schedule of like where they're going to start first? And also, I'm very concerned living on Beverly Avenue because back in 2009, and I believe you were on the council then,
Yes.
I thought this was resolved. There was a lot of ongoing discussion. There was a compromise plan for putting the sidewalk out in the street. And Mayor Enright decided, and the council voted against putting them on Beverly Avenue because there's just no room. It's a very narrow street. It was proposed that it would go on the west side of the street, which would mean that homeowners like myself who have old houses that are close to the road would be losing, even though it's borough property, they would be coming in 10 feet, and I would have ended up with a sidewalk at the bottom of my front step with people walking down the street, looking in my windows. It would have required not only people's hedges to come down, but utility poles to be moved, and I just, whatever happens, I mean, everything is bigger than you know, just sort of yellow and red and green lines on a map. It's a matter of, it could disrupt people's lives, and it could absolutely destroy my property value to have a sidewalk there. And I'm not prepared to tear my house down and rebuild and move it back. So I'm just, you know, I want you to tread carefully. And if people who weren't on the council, if you like a review, I've got every single article saved from that, and it was hard won, and I just really wouldn't want to see that happen again. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Good.
Fred, I don't know if you were here at that time. Was there something passed by the council to eliminate the sidewalks from Beverly Avenue?
Yes.
Well, then why wouldn't we uphold that?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
if I may,
Yeah, go ahead, Chair.
Ms. Bateau was in this afternoon and mentioned this to me. Obviously, I was not aware of the history on this. Subsequently, I've had a chance to do some quick research, and apparently at that time, the borough was actively constructing sidewalks as part of a safe sidewalk program. This is somewhat different in that the current borough ordinance requires any application to go that's before the planning board or zoning board or any property that is proposed for construction is required to provide sidewalks. So there is somewhat a slight difference, but I understand the point that apparently the issue of sidewalks on that street had been previously addressed, and we'll provide that information to the council. As you're aware, back in December, Mr. May was here, presented the sidewalk plan, and we're in the process of developing a change to the ordinance that requires construction of sidewalks when a property is undergoing development or construction.
But even,
In certain zones.
but the Beverly Avenue would be exempt from that based on what I'm hearing now in terms of the agreement made with the prior council.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we need to update that on the plan.
I don't know Sharon, why you, well, you should be concerned. but
Well, I think
wouldn't
you
be
should.
overly-
After
I
what
wouldn't be
happened
overly-
with the D3, it's like anything can happen.
I would s-
It's compliance. So.
I would say this, that, you know, in the plan, there were certain areas that were higher priorities than others, but I think it behooves you to.
An agreement was made
Right, but
with the
agreement
residents.
was made, and frankly, you know, 2 years from now or 3 years from now, depending on the composition of the council,
We
just
do.
keep an eye on it.
If I can just clarify, it was, a determination was made
I would just keep an eye on us.
when a prior council was considering moving forward with the sidewalk project along Beverly Avenue, and we had a large outcry from residents who lived on Beverly Avenue and the surrounding area. And again, Mr. Delaney was correct with regard to the fact that this had to do with the Safe Route to Schools program. The prior council after having many discussions and dialogue with the residents in the area, determined to forego the construction of the sidewalks along Beverly Avenue. There wasn't any formal agreement that was drafted between the borough and any residents that there would never be any sidewalk there, but the prior council opted not to move forward with the project at that time, and this council can certainly follow
We should
the
honor that.
footsteps of the prior
We
council.
should honor that.
Honor that, correct.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Anyone else like to speak?
Kathleen Crippen, 564 Atlantic Avenue. At the reorganization meeting, one of the residents, Gladys Erb, had brought in a letter to the editor for the Asbury Park Press. And I don't know how many of you might have gone home and read that letter, but it was very interesting. It dealt with violations of the Open Public Meeting Act. And I did take the letter and send it to a gentleman named Walter Lewers, who runs the New Jersey Foundation for Open Government, and he very kindly weighed in with an opinion. And he agreed with the letter writer that council people who are having sidebar discussions that are not recognized by the chair, that is a violation of the Open Public Meeting Act. Everything that happens at the meeting has to be heard by the public. And he also said text messages are included in that. And I know some people have sat up here and sent text messages. I'm not going to single people out because they know who they are. Everybody was on their best behavior tonight. I just wanted to put it on the public record that holding sidebar conversations and apparently also sending text messages from the dais are pieces of information that the public can then put in an Oprah request for. So I appreciate that the council behaved themselves tonight and that everybody was good and that there wasn't a lot of sidebar and questioning. The mayor needs to recognize anybody who's going to speak or ask a question, and I would just like to see that behavior continue in future meetings. Thank you.
Can I be recognized?
Got your hand raised?
Fred, if my wife texts me while I'm on the dais and I text her back, is that operable? Is that a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act?
No.
Well,
No, I want an opinion on it, because that does happen.
first, if I could suggest as a matter of best practices that if any of you get a phone call, obviously you need to have your phones on you in case you have an emergency.
Exactly.
I would suggest that you just excuse yourself from the dais
Okay.
and take the call outside of the council area or respond to that text. But I could understand Ms. Crippen's point. It does raise reasonable questions on the part of the public who don't know that that came
Absolutely.
from your wife, who you're communicating with, and
Correct.
the public is not seeing the communication. And the Open Public Meetings Act is all about transparency, and the public is supposed to witness the full deliberations of the governing body while you're here, and they wouldn't have the ability to do that if you're communicating with an unknown person that the public's not aware of.
So it would be appropriate for me to leave the dais,
Absolutely.
sit right there, respond to my wife, and come back on?
Yes,
Thank
I mean, if you need to respond, I would suggest removing yourself from the dais and going out.
Well, some of us have young kids and, you know, things come up.
I have another question. In the age of smartphones, which is what they are, they're very smart, they also have calendars, which we can check. And
Are we allowed to look at
We
calendars?
can also take notes on it, and we can send a note to us, hey, this is what somebody is talking about on the asking a question, can you please address it? So it sends a reminder for one of us to look something up the next day. So you tread very lightly on accusing people of using phones inappropriately when they're now, I don't need to take notes. Some people are dinosaurs and they still need to take notes. I can do something right on my phone and send me an email or send me a message, correct?
Your point is well taken.
Yes.
Yeah, people have,
Thank you.
you know, their laptops, they've got, you know, all kinds of devices now that they're taking notes on, and it's not necessarily the case that they're communicating with outside parties.
Fred, or
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go.
Accusation.
Are we permitted to look at our calendars on our smartphone?
I would have no problem, and I think the public would support your being able to look at your calendars, because while you're up there, a lot of times you're scheduling a special meeting or doing other things that require you to look at your calendars. The intention here is that you're not actively communicating
Correct.
with those who are not here at the meeting, and the public can't
Correct.
be privy to those discussions. And we're
Correct. No, and that's a good point. That's a good point. I just want to make sure we're all familiar with the parameters of what we are allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I think with the allegation is that we're texting each other. Is that right? Or-
Well, that
Yes.
may be, I don't know for sure, but
Which
you know,
is
the
unfair
public
to
might
everyone.
presume that that might be the case, but it's speculation and
It's accusations.
Right, better safe than sorry.
Accusations which from some,
Good.
it's just too
Thank
many
you.
unfounded accusations.
Thanks, Fred.
I just think as a best practice, you know, that I would recommend that you
Very
remove
good.
yourself and respond out.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
Sir, there was no allegation, Miss Cindy, as to one special person. There's been too much conference talking, and the public has no idea what's going on, and then somebody says something. I brought that article in because I felt it applied to everyone here. Also, the talking up so we can hear you. If you were obliged tonight, and it was okay, but I've had two people already ask me what was being said. Now, what are you gonna do about the acoustics?
Gladys, we're trying. We got reminders tonight.
You were.
Okay?
And I could
So
hear
we are trying.
Today we can't hear. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't believe anyone's accusing anyone of anything, but we have the recommendations from Mr. Rosello.
It's good.
Good, it's good reminder, Fred. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? No, okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.